I've spoken about this before, but it's been a while, I think, of how Valentine's Day after 2003 was hard in my family with my mom and dad, because that morning on February 14th, 2003, my mom woke up and couldn't get out of bed. She couldn't move. She was essentially paralyzed. She could not speak. She had difficulty swallowing. She was immobile. And it was her first MS attack after being diagnosed the August prior. July 31st, but August officially. And from then on, Valentine's Day was a day of like mourning in my household. And not that anything was ever extravagant with the day. You know, we got a little Whitman's chocolate, maybe made something like special, you know. It was a taco night, or my dad's homemade calzones and stromboli, but not that Valentine's Day was big in the house, but it was acknowledged. Whereafter that, it was not. And I didn't have any Valentine's Day experience until the first one with my husband, then boyfriend. And I've spoken about being a young caregiver to my mom, and then a few years later, my dad. But like February 14th, the focus was on my mom, of course. You know, I still remember it. I woke up, and usually my mom was up, and my dad said, "Mom's not doing good. She's not feeling good." And then when I went in to see her in her room, I realized it's not just an under the weather thing. This is something. And I had driver's ed. I was homeschooled, and I had driver's ed at the high school. My dad took me. That afternoon, we were supposed to leave to go to Disney. My dad said, "I think we're going to have to cancel it because your mom's not feeling good." And he was in some major denial of what was going on, which we weren't clear on what was going on, but I knew this was catastrophic and life-changing for my mom. And to show you how much my mom has kind of just put out of her mind and blacked out of her mind, she doesn't remember that that was the date. She doesn't remember anything. And that could also be just how the attack affected her brain and her memory, because each attack affects her memory. But she didn't realize that like Valentine's Day like stopped in the house, and she didn't realize that was why. Now, I am not going, like my goal, I don't know how to say this without it sounding selfish, but I have always given my mom the full credit of how much her MS affected her life, obviously. I mean, her 50th birthday and menopause all triggering in 1 year, and then MS diagnosis, and then months after her first attack. You know, to go from fully healthy, physically capable person to not, literally overnight, you know, no words can express what that is to her. But yesterday, on February 14th, it really dawned on me that that date didn't just affect her. It didn't just affect, Valentine's Day went out the window. But that day marks the day my life changed as well. Completely different reasons, but my life's trajectory completely changed like that overnight. I came from a very overprotective, and what I will now look back on, a narcissistic, emotionally abusive household, unfortunately because of my dad. So my transition to adulthood would have been difficult regardless of my parents' health and then caregiving needs. But needing to become their caregiver changed everything I could have hoped for in my life, goals, dreams, etc. I would have had to fought for what I wanted in life because of what my dad was bringing to the table. But it completely derailed when the responsibility of becoming their caregiver, mom first, then dad, like it completely changed what my future looked like and what I put aside because of what was expected of me in my household, and then what extended family members expected of me, and the lack of help / lack of full awareness. February 14th marks that for me, and it hit me like a truck yesterday. I never really looked at it that way, that, if I was traveling this path, I merged ever so quickly and dangerously without looking into another lane, and I had to follow that lane into an unknown. And that's a strange realization to have after 23 years, that this date marked a new life for my mom and a new life for me. We won't get into the new life for my dad. That's a separate story, which again I've touched upon. And yes, I acknowledge how his life changed, but I don't want to talk about that now. I fully acknowledge that his life changed overnight as well, and his hopes and dreams for their future changed overnight, but I want to take a moment for this to be about me, because I so often never got that opportunity. It was about them. And obviously with their decline in health, it should be about them, but I think that's where the caregiver burnout and traps happen, where we don't focus on the caregiver and how their life changes and becomes affected. Especially if you are a 16 or 17-year-old. That's a big life trajectory change where your adulthood hasn't even started yet. And I think that's what really struck me. My life in that chapter didn't even begin for it to change from. It just laid a path out for me that I had to take. There weren't multiple paths to choose from. Anyway, I just thought I would share that because it's amazing how much can come to light in your own brain years and years, decades later, where enough space opens up in your brain to allow it. I don't know. I found it odd that it hit me yesterday after all this time. And I guess maybe because I always focused on my mom in it. Obviously. Of course I would. And then knowing me, of course I wouldn't focus on me in it. All right. Thanks for listening. And if you are a caregiver, I'm sure this somehow resonates with you too, of the anniversary of something changing in your life when you became a caregiver or something. Okay. I'll talk to you later. Bye.